Greetings, fellow comrades, acquaintances, student friends, and Dr. King. I hope everybody is staying healthy during this time and staying inside. I hope everybody is sane. I'm going to be talking about Joseph Andrews, and I just thought I'd switch it up and do a little video in case you wanted to see me for whatever reason. Anyways, I am going to be talking about if Joseph Andrews is more concerned with society or individuals. And I'm pretty much gonna stick to the idea that it's more concerned with individuals. Although, of course, we see a lot about the society of the time through Joseph Andrews. I would say that Fielding's primary concern is more with Joseph and his character and the development of his relationships with Lady Booby and Fanny and Parson Adams. So yeah, it's more about the individual. The first thing that I want to talk about, which lends hand to this idea that it's more about the individuals, is the fact that Fielding actually describes what Joseph looked like. I thought that was really nice that we as readers got to have a solid visual of what he looks like, because we're told that he's really handsome, he's really virtuous, and all these great things, which is good, but he actually says this is exactly what he looks like. And I just thought it was fun. A detailed personal description is something that we haven't gotten in Moll Flanders or Pamela yet. So I thought that was really cool that he was able to give the physical description of what Joseph looked like. So I'm gonna read that. He says, "Now Mr. Joseph Andrews was now in 21st year of his age. He was of the highest degree of middle stature. His limbs were put together with great elegance and no less strength. His legs and thighs were formed in the exactest proportion. His shoulders were broad and brawny, but yet his arms hung so easily that he had all the symptoms of strength without the least clumsiness. His hair was of a nut brown color and was displayed in wanton ringlets down his back. His forehead was high, his eyes dark, and as full of sweetness as fire. His nose a little inclined to Roman, his teeth white and even, his lips full, red, and soft. His beard was only rough on his chin and upper lip, but his cheeks, in which blood glowed, were overspread with a thick down. His countenance had a tenderness joined with a sensibility inexpressible. Add to this was the most perfect neatness in dress, and an air which those who have not seen many noblemen would give an idea of nobility." So, I don't know, I just really liked knowing what Joseph Andrews looked throughout the book. And we also get a few descriptions of some other characters. We're told that Fanny's really beautiful. And although, we know Parson Adams' wig gets torn to shreds, we know that he's a great friend through his descriptions and his dialogue with Joseph. So, yeah, we just get an overall more personal view of the characters, which I think focuses more on the individual rather than their circumstances and their society around them. Part of Joseph's character, we know that he's virtuous, he's resilient, and he's charming, and he's loyal to Fanny because of LUV. So, yeah, it's just more personal. And I think that as readers, it draws us to focus more on the individual character rather than the society that they're presented in. So the second aspect that tells us the novel's more associated with the individual is the dialogue between the characters, which I kind of briefly mentioned earlier, but through the dialogue, we learn the individuality of the characters rather than, like I said, the society around them. Fielding isn't telling us about, he mentions London, but he's not like, London was like this and blah, 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 blah. We get to see how the characters interact with each other. And once again, although that does tell us a little bit about the time period, it still tells us more about the characters as a whole rather than the time period as a whole. We get to learn about their motives, their likes and dislikes, their tendencies, just like Slip Slop's misuse of words and how she thinks she's so smart. We just get a bigger understanding of the characters and how they interact with one another. So I'm gonna read from when Mr. Wilson is first meeting Adams and Joseph Andrews. The gentleman returned with a bottle. Oh, this is book 3, chapter 4. My page numbers are different. So, book 3. The gentleman returned with a bottle and he sat some time silent when the former started up and cried, "No, that won't do." The gentleman inquired into this meeting. He answered he had not been considering that it was possible the late famous King Theodore might have been that very son whom he lost, but added that his age could not answer that imagination. However, says he, God disposes all things for the best, and probably he may be some great man or duke, and may one day or other revisit you in that capacity. So we get to find out a little bit more about Mr. Wilson later on. I wasn't done reading. The gentleman answered he should know him amongst 10,000, for he had a mark on his left breast of a strawberry, which his mother had given him by longing for that fruit. So this is when we find out that Mr. Wilson's long lost son has a birthmark in the shape of a strawberry, and we find out who that is later, Joseph Andrews, which is crazy. So fun, so good. And then I'm also gonna read the part when Parson Adams is encouraging Joseph when Fanny has been kidnapped. And this is also in book 3, chapter 6. I can't read Roman numerals. Okay. Joseph no sooner came perfectly to himself than perceiving his mistress gone, he bewailed her loss with groans, which would have pierced any heart but those which are possessed by some people, and are made of a certain composition not unlike flint in its hardness, and other properties, for you may strike fire from them, which will dart through eyes, but they can never distill one drop of water the same way. His own poor youth was of a softer composition, and at those words, "O my dear Fanny, O my love, shall I never, never see thee more?" his eyes overflowed with tears which would have become any but a hero. In a word, his despair was more easy to be conceived than related. Mr. Adams, after many groans, sitting with his back to Joseph, began thus in a sorrowful tone, "You cannot imagine, my good child, that I entirely blame these first agonies of your grief. For when misfortunes attack us by surprise, it must require infinitely more learning than you are a master of to resist them. But it is the business of a man and a Christian to summon reason as quickly as he can to his aid, and she will presently teach him patience and submission." So that's just when Parson Adams is encouraging Joseph, just be patient. Things will turn out just fine. And they will. They most certainly will. So the last part of the book that I think makes it more about the individual is, and take this with a grain of salt, is the believability of the plot. And this also makes the book a little bit more of a novel. Unlike Moll Flanders, which became to be outlandish towards the end, just the fact that she could never get caught, all those things made it a little less believable. But the believability of the plot, I think, makes it more believable, and it makes the characters, once again, more relatable and more individual. Just because, like, while the plot does keep us reading, and there are certain plot twists like the fake incest and the mistaken identity, it draws us closer to the characters and how they react. So yeah, I just think the plot overall is the most believable one that we've read thus far. And like I said, although there are some plot twists, they're not too much. And Joseph's character isn't too virtuous. It isn't too good like Pamela's. I just felt Pamela was a little removed from the readers, and she was just so good in everything and at everything, and she was so beautiful. But we do get to see like a part of Joseph when he's missing Fanny and he's talking to Adams. He's just groaning, and we get to see him suffer a little bit, which goes back to the individuality of the character. He wouldn't suffer if it weren't for the plot being how it is. So yeah, I just thought that was really good. And at the end, we get the happy ending that we all want, which I think is good. It's not necessarily crazy believable, but Joseph's love for Fanny throughout the novel kind of makes it believable, and his devotion to her. She's like his ride or die. He's really got the hots for her. So, yeah, there's a focus on the characters rather than the society around them shaping them in this or that way. So I'm just going to read the last paragraph of the book, which I really liked. I thought it was a good way to end the book. Yeah. Joseph remains blessed with his Fanny, whom he dotes on with the utmost tenderness, which is all returned on her side, which is so sweet. The happiness of this couple is a perpetual fountain of pleasure to their fond parents, and what is particularly remarkable, he declares, he will imitate them in their retirement, nor will be prevailed on any booksellers or their authors to make his appearance in high life. So Joseph's okay being married to Fanny. He loves her, he treats her with the utmost kindness, and she treats him the same, which I think is good. It shows that they both have emotions and they both care really deeply for each other, which although we see Mr. B having a sort of obsession with Pamela, there's not really, I mean, towards the end there is sort of an aspect of tenderness, but it's a little, you kind of have to question it just because of how shaky his past was. But we get to see a nice little feeling of tenderness between Joseph and Fanny, which is apparent throughout really the whole book, just in his chasing of her and his wanting to get her back from all the many people who try to take her. But yeah, so in closing, Joseph Andrews is more focused on the individual more than the society. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, email me, let me know. If you think I'm totally wrong, that's fine. I don't think I am, but yes, so stay safe, wash your hands, read a book, and take care, everybody.